The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters, sponsored by Green Blooms, floral design at an affordable price.
Hello, well, we're still here and welcome back to the latest Potty Plotters Plotcast podcast.
Well done, Julia.
Thank you.
I'm Elaine and...
I'm Julia, and this is episode 22. And don't forget, you can get in contact with us via our social media channels, which are Instagram, Facebook and Twitter at Potty Plotters. We've also got a TikTok account now, Elaine, and it's at The Potty Plotters. Or you can contact us via our website, pottyplotters.uk, or send us an email to the naughtycorner at pottyplotters.uk. And someone has actually been in contact with us, haven't they, Elaine?
Yes, they have. A new listener, Lisa, in Pontyclun. I think that's how you say it. In South Wales. Anyway, she's got an allotment and she's had one for about 10 months now. And she said she can't get enough of this stuff. She says, "What have you both done to me? I have found your podcast and can't stop listening. On episode 10, bloody brilliant." She's swearing, that's a South Wales thing. "Wish my allotment was on your site. Feels like I'm listening to friends. Keep it up, you guys are so inspiring." Thanks, Lisa. And keep in touch and let us know how you go on with your allotment.
There then, that's that. Well, it continues to be crazy down the plots with so many jobs to do at this time of year. But today we want to specifically talk to you about tapes.
All will be revealed.
And we'll be earthing up our potatoes. And do you remember that meal barrow that we did in episode 11?
I'm surprised that you do, Julia, because I was doing it while you were sat inside in the warm.
Yeah, well, anyway, well, we're going to go back to that and have a look, see what happened. And we're also returning to episode 17 to sort out the sunflowers and zinnias. So we've got lots to talk about.
That's not like us, having loads to talk about. But we mustn't forget to remind you that if you'd like to learn more about what we are doing or have done, then hit the follow button so that you don't miss anything.
Contact the Potty Plotters anytime on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Potty Plotters, or email naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk.
Right then, what are we going to do about today then? What are you going to talk about, Julia?
I'm talking about tapes.
Tapes? What kind of tapes?
Not the kind that you record, well, you used to record the radio on, didn't you? Can you remember when you had the charts on and you used to go, try to stop the music? When you were...
Top of the Pops?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
No, not those kind of tapes.
No.
We're going to talk about...
tapes?
No, that killed the radio star, didn't it? No, we're going to talk about seed tapes, Elaine.
Okay, seed tapes.
Yeah, and it's something that we knew about, but we've kind of really been talking about a lot when we've been going out and sharing our knowledge with people, because we had a lady on our site who struggles with mobility issues and bending down a lot, and I'd noticed...
That could be me, actually.
Insert name, Elaine here. So she was struggling to get down and stay down and be able to sow the seeds, and sow them where she was leaving enough space between the seeds, because obviously once she was down, she was chucking them in.
Is that the lady who's got arthritis in her fingers?
That's right.
Yeah, got you.
So it was quite difficult for her, and I knew about these seed tapes having worked with children before, because if you've ever worked with children when you're sowing seeds, they are a bit heavy-handed. So I had used seed tapes before, and we gave her some of them, and she absolutely loves them now. She raves about them. They are so easy. There's no thinning out.
So how do you... Let's go back a bit. What are they and how do you actually use them?
So they're basically seeds of different varieties of things. So you can get them with radishes, you can get them with carrots, beetroot, lettuces. We've seen them with onions. And it's a piece of tape, and it's almost like it's paper, really.
Okay.
And it is biodegradable. And the seeds are impregnated into the tape. And they're impregnated at the right distance that they need to be. So when you're on the ground kind of trying to sow them, it can be a bit fiddly, especially with carrot seed, because they're so hard to, quite small and fiddly, and also you have to leave a nice gap, and they're already done for you. So you basically create a little trench to lay the tape in, cover it back over with the soil, and then water it in. and the seeds will come up and everything will be correctly spaced. So there's no thinning out. So actually it saves you money because you're not wasting money by
and
thinning
so the
them
tape
out.
itself, you said that it was made of paper. So can you rip it then to the length of like the row that you've got, if it was like 6 foot, 8 foot, 2 inches, whatever?
Yeah, you can rip it to fit the size that you want to fit it. Some people have ripped them to fit into containers even. So, but you can see the seeds quite clearly through the tape. So it makes it very easy. But there's normally about 6 to 8 metres in the pack, which gives you a lot of seed, but it just makes it that much easier.
So what about the cost though? Because invariably when somebody comes up with an idea or a new idea that isn't just a packet of seeds and that you're, planting them, they usually invariably cost a lot more money. What about the price of these then?
Yeah, they are a little bit more money. So the radishes, for example, they were £3 for the pack, but then you get 6 metres worth of them. But then if you think about it, you're not wasting anything. You're not kind of over sowing, so you're not having to thin them out. It just makes it so much easier. So I think it is worth it. I mean, I'm sure if you go on YouTube and all those things, you'll find some way of doing it yourself. But actually, for the price of it, it's so easy. And I do think it is worth it if you have difficulties or if you're doing it with children who are very heavy-handed.
OK, so we can do them with carrots, beetroot, radish and other things, and it's worth looking out for at all the supermarkets and seed places.
Yeah.
And particularly, I would say then, if you can get them back end of the year and get them in the sale.
Absolutely. I think that's the perfect time to get them.
Let's have a go.
So we're on your main plot, Elaine. Do you remember the last time we were on here with your big dobber?
Yeah, not likely to forget it really, am I? And what we did was we planted my potatoes. If you remember, we screwed holes along here every 8 inches and 8 inches down. And then this one, we actually dug a trench. So we've done the 2 different methods. And as you can see now, I've been hoeing up and covering the green of the potatoes as they started to grow. And I've continued to do that week in, week out. And now look, I don't think there's much more soil to hoe up. And the other beauty thing is, that's like a beautiful thing I should mean to say, is that I've actually now got flowers on the potatoes. So they're looking really good and very healthy.
So why have you been hoeing them up, and what have you been using to do that?
I've used a draw hoe, and this is a draw hoe here. OK, and what you do then is you draw up the soil over the top of the potato, and that's simply to stop the potato rising to the top, because when they do and they go green, they give you a funny tummy. And I don't mean funny ha-ha, I mean not very pleasant, no. Not at all. So they're not potatoes then to eat, but it will then make the potato continue to grow under the soil.
How do you know when to stop drawing up the soil?
When you run out of soil, generally. I know it sounds funny, but it is true. There will be a time when you cannot draw any more up. And at the moment, Julia, I think I'm about soiled out.
The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters, sponsored by Green Blooms.
The eagle-eared amongst you may have noticed that there's been a slight change at the beginning of this episode of the Plotcast. We're being sponsored now. If you're a business and would like to discuss potential sponsorship opportunities with us, get in touch. naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk.
Our first sponsor is Green Blooms Floral Design of Derbyshire. You may remember Tina was on with us on episode 11 discussing spring flowers and displays. Green Blooms Floral Design is a small floral business based in Derbyshire who give a personal and affordable service. Whether you're after displays for your wedding or funeral, a gift or bouquet, contact Tina. Search Green Blooms on Facebook and Instagram or at greenblooms.co.uk. You'll also find them linked from our social media too.
So we've moved on to Elaine's overflow plot, which basically is full of flowers, isn't it, Elaine?
It is. I've intermingled some vegetables, and in the curvy greenhouse at the back as well, I've put the dwarf tomatoes. But other than that, yes, a vision of beauty as you come round the corner. And that's not just me, obviously.
I'm not going to say anything. Right, get down on your hands and knees. You're going to do something, aren't you?
Yeah, for a change. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to plant the zinnias that are left over. I've done a whole bed here, 3/4 of a bed, and also I've got some single giant sunflowers that are now ready to be potted. Now, I don't actually put these out into the ground until they are this big, which is around 18 inches high.
And that's about the same height as the ones that I'm going to plant will grow to.
Absolutely, yeah. So you like the small ones and I like the big ones. Nothing changes really in life.
No.
So what I am going to do though is I am going to plant it good and proper. So I'll get my trowel in here, and it's actually full of horse muck, as you can tell, because the soil is still lovely. But you can see the depth of this plant pot is probably about 4 inches, something like that. And what I'm going to do is literally make a hole big enough for the plant to go in. And you can see the roots underneath there, Julia.
That's ready to come out.
Just squish it a little bit and then pull gently so that you don't break all the roots off. Lovely root ball, ready to be planted. And then in it goes. And you'll notice that I've actually put a stake already next to it. So when I say that, I mean a giant cane. So I've pushed that well and truly in. And now what I'm going to do is I've got a piece of string, or I'll cut a piece of string rather than the cable that goes to the microphone, because then I would get told off. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a figure of 8 round the neck of the sunflower, then curve it round over onto the cane, and then tie, as I do, a double knot. That will make sure that it's well and truly secured. You pass us the water, I'd water it then.
Where is it?
I haven't got any, it's over in the barrel.
So there's a reason for doing a figure of 8, isn't there, Elaine?
Yes, it's so that the sunflower can grow and the width of the stalk will grow and it won't get tied in and strangle it.
So you've given the sunflower a good watering now. Now what are you doing?
Right, I've got the zinnias. I've planted 3/4 of a bed here, Julia, which should be spectacular. And I've just got these last few to put in. And all I'm doing is get them out the cell tray, hold it carefully. And as you can see, I've watered it really well. Got a lovely root ball. And all you're going to do is make a hole big enough for the root and the plant to go in. In it goes, push it down, and then shove all of that back on the top, all the soil. And it is horse muck as well. So, I've had my sandwich, so I'm not really bothered.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need watering because it was well watered beforehand.
It was, and I've just noticed that the label says giant zinnias. So what height are they going to get to?
I'm hoping to about 3 foot. But you know me, I like everything giant on my plot.
That's why you covered it in muck, isn't it?
It is. It should be okay, though.
Contact the Potty Plotters anytime on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Potty Plotters, or email naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk.
We've come back round to outside the tangerinery, and look what we've got here, Elaine.
A meal barrow. Do you remember planting it all those weeks ago?
No, I remember watching you planting it because I was inside in the warm.
And I was outside in the cold.
Yeah, and it looks marvellous, but I have noticed one terrible mistake. I've noticed one terrible mistake that you've
Actually,
made.
this was an experiment, Julia, actually, and it was whether or not alderman peas would be able to grow in a wheelbarrow.
I don't
And they've
think-
worked.
Whenever you say experiment, read mistake, because I think what you've done is you've put some very large peas in there, haven't you?
Very tall peas, but all
Yeah.
I'm going to say to you, Julia, is the proof of any pudding is in the eating. Have we or have we not got peas on the peas?
We've got peas on the peas.
That's easy peasy, isn't it then?
Well
sure.
done. So anyone can give this a go, can't they? And now, at this time of year, laughing at you and Joe, that's a bit sad, isn't it? Anyway, anybody could give this a go, and at this time of year, it'll all get going very quickly, won't it? Probably twice as quickly as when we did it.
Yeah, definitely, because the temperature is so much warmer. But what I would say is I'm going to have a go at doing a salad barra now.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do it on my own and then you won't be able to criticise it.
So what are you going to put in this salad barra then?
A salad. It's dead hard to say, isn't it? A salad barra. What I'm going to do is I shall put radishes in, beetroot. I will definitely put lettuce in there. And if I've got some dwarf tomatoes, I'll pop some of them in as well. don't know if you've ever grown any of those before, Julia.
No, I don't grow dwarf tomatoes. I grow the giant ones.
Well, I'm going to put those in and let's see how it goes.
Top-notch advice, no Latin included. The Potty Plotters Podcast.
Away from the meal barrow, sitting down now in the beer garden. Julia, what have you been doing this week? It's been a hell of a time, hasn't it?
It's non-stop, isn't it, this time of year? So it's watering and more watering and a little bit of feeding as well, because I've noticed that the tomatoes have got lots of baby tomatoes developing. So I've been feeding them once a week. And also the strawberries are putting on some growth. So they've also had a bit of tomato feed.
When you say that you feed your tomatoes once a week, how do you remember what day it is that you feed them?
I've tried to build it in so I always do it on the same day. So I know that we'll be here on a Sunday, for example. So I always have a feed in Sunday.
OK. I always have a feed on Sunday, but that's not that I have to remember. It's just,
yeah.
That's right. He always does lunch on a Sunday, which is lovely. OK, then. So you've been watering and you've been feeding. What else have you been doing in the greenhouse and polytunnel?
In the greenhouse, I've also been taking the side shoots out the tomatoes, been tying everything in to make sure that they are well supported. I've also been keeping an eye out for all the pests and diseases that start to appear at this time of year.
Which are like what?
Things like the green fly, the white fly, the spider mite. So it's just really looking over the leaves, making sure that there's nothing lurking in there. And if I've found anything, I have given it a good squish in, Elaine. I'm not nervous of these things. I am a vegetarian, but I will squish.
I wasn't expecting you to say that you're going to eat them, Julia, but that's fine. Now then, slugs and snails. Now, I found that on my dahlias already, they know where they're located, and I've noticed that there's already some holes in the leaves that have appeared. Now, I will be getting the nemaslugs and everything out very shortly because it's that time of year. But how do you deal with slugs and snails?
Slugs and snails, again, I do what you do, get the nemaslug out. So we have got some coming in the post, and if anyone wants to hear about the nemaslugs, they can listen back to episode 20 when we talked to Mr. Nematode, Chris Holden. So I also go round and I look out for any slugs and snails, and if I see any, I do fetch them off the plants, and I have to say, rather brutally, I do kill them.
OK, and I'm going to be putting some new guttering up very shortly on my shed, and I'm presuming that you're going to do the same.
Definitely. As much water as possible. When it does rain, I want to collect it and keep it. So, yes, our association have created a very great new initiative where they are providing all the guttering and the attachments at cost price. So I think it should encourage people to collect their own water, and I think it's so important that you collect your own water. And the plants really do prefer the harvested water to tap water anyway.
And what I've noticed is that sometimes you get green algae on the water that you're collecting in the barrels. What can you suggest for people to do with the water barrels so that they don't get that in the future?
Well, our friend at Chelsea, didn't she mention something about putting a bag of watercress in there, or is that just on a pond?
Actually, that's worth a little go, Julia, because it was about a pond. But you've given me an idea. Maybe that's what we ought to be trying. And we'll get some watercress and sprinkle it on the top and see what happens. Other than that, perhaps just paint your water barrel so that no light can get through. Julia, have you ever had ants in your plants?
Well, I always remember ants in my pants when I was a kid because I always used to sit on the floor, but I have had ants in my plants, and I don't mind them in the compost heap. They do a great job in there, but I don't really want them in the plants because they do disturb the roots of them. So there are numerous ways that you can deal with them, and you've got a top tip, haven't you?
I have, yeah. And what I've found that does work is the use of cinnamon powder. So I go to a local shop where they sell it quite cheaply, and I bring a bag of it up here and I sprinkle it round the plants. In particular, I found that they're in my curvy greenhouse, so I sprinkle cinnamon powder round the tomato plants and find that then they'll leave them well and truly alone. And since I've started doing that, I've never had ants in my plants. Top tip.
Yeah. And I think we'd better move off quickly because we've been invaded, haven't we? And not by pests that we know of anyway.
Well, they're pests in my book, but it depends who it is. Barry's all right, we'll keep him.
Yeah, but we have been invaded by the men of the site who have made their way into the chalet and put the kettle on. So I think there's a big hint there. Next time, we will be sewing and making tea. But that's just a play on words, as we mean something completely different to what you might be thinking.
You won't want to drink this type of tea, though, will you, Julia, if it's the type that I think that we're going to be making?
No, but it soon clears the plot, doesn't it?
It clears everything, that's the problem. So, press the follow button and then you won't miss the episode or any other thinking about it.
The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters, sponsored by Green Blooms. Floral design at an affordable price is an Amberland Media production.